Michael "Venom" Paige and Carlos Prates had quite the moment after UFC 319, and their encounter may have just sparked one of the most exciting potential matchups of the year. After the event, MVP spoke to reporters and made it clear he would be more than open to fighting Carlos Prates at UFC Rio this October. And while Prates originally had his eyes set on Leon Edwards for a massive welterweight showdown, when Paige's name came up, he didn't hesitate for a second. He said he's absolutely down for the matchup and emphasized that he wants to fight in Brazil on October 11th. If the UFC can book it, I'll be there, Prates stated confidently. When asked directly about the fight, Paige didn't hold back. He replied, "Ooh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. MVP even joked that Prates wouldn't be catching him with that dangerous spinning elbow. But beyond the humor, Paige explained that this is exactly the kind of fight he's been asking for. If Prates is ready, he's ready. MVP also highlighted how much it would mean to finally compete in Brazil. He shared that he's had Brazilian fans supporting him for years, even recalling the days when people called him the UK Anderson Silva, a compliment he still holds in high regard. Despite that support, he's never fought there, and in his eyes, now is the perfect time. The timing couldn't be better either. October 11th is just around the corner. But Paige feels fresh and confident after UFC 319. He took no serious damage, just the usual soreness from leg kicks, which he says heals in about a week. He believes the turnaround makes perfect sense and even suggested that the fight should be a 5-round co-main event. In fact, MVP admitted he prefers longer fights, as they give him more time to showcase his unique skill set. Of course, many pointed out that Prates has also been vocal about fighting Leon Edwards. Paige acknowledged that, but made it clear that Edwards' fight only makes sense if it happens in the UK, if the UFC returns to London in March. That's when it should happen, he said with a smile. For him, everything feels perfectly lined up. October in Brazil, March in the UK, and he's absolutely loving it. On the same night, Carlos Prates was also asked about facing Paige, and he didn't dismiss it at all. While he made it clear that Leon Edwards remains his first choice because he wants to test himself against the very best, he admitted that if Edwards doesn't take the fight, he's ready for anyone in Rio, and that includes MVP. Prates even went a step further, admitting that Paige has inspired him for years. He respects his style and believes their fight would be nothing short of electrifying. When asked about the possibility of a 5-round fight, Prates said he enjoyed his last 5-round experience and would be open to it again. For now though, he wants to celebrate his recent win, return to the gym, and then decide if he prefers 3 or 5 rounds. What makes this potential matchup even more compelling is the mutual respect between the two fighters. After UFC 319, Paige and Prates crossed paths multiple times backstage and later at the club. Both interactions were full of admiration. No trash talk, no hostility. Just two fighters acknowledging each other's skills. And often, when that kind of respect exists, it leads to fireworks once the cage door closes. Fans already know if these two step inside the octagon together, it won't just be a fight, it'll be a show. Now to our second major headline from UFC 319. Michael Bisping has made a bold and eye-opening statement about the state of the middleweight division. According to the former champion and current analyst, there may be only one man capable of truly testing Khamzat Chimaev at 185 pounds, Reinier de Ridder. This statement comes in the aftermath of Chimaev's absolute domination of Dricus du Plessis at UFC 319. From the opening bell, Chimaev smothered his opponent with relentless grappling and suffocating pressure, leaving no room to breathe. The performance left the MMA world buzzing, but also asking the same burning question: who on earth can stop this man? When pressed for his thoughts, Bisping didn't hesitate. He immediately pointed to de Ridder, the Dutch submission specialist and former One Championship double champion. In Bisping's eyes, de Ridder's unique blend of size, length, leverage, and elite jiu-jitsu makes him the only fighter in the world with the tools to even challenge Chimaev's ground dominance. Bisping even went further, warning that Chimaev's reign as middleweight champion could be disastrous for the division, not because of any weakness, but because of his overwhelming strength. He's simply that good, Bisping suggested, explaining that if Chimaev keeps steamrolling contenders the way he just did, we could be looking at a long and one-sided era at 185 pounds. Breaking down de Ridder's chances, Bisping highlighted his ability to control the clinch, stay dangerous off his back, and attack submissions from multiple positions. He's not the kind of grappler who gets bullied on the mat, and at the very least, he could force Chimaev into deeper waters. Still, even Bisping admitted that it would be an incredibly tough fight. At best, de Ridder might slow Chimaev down, but stopping him entirely would be another story. Of course, Reinier de Ridder isn't the only name in the conversation. Sean Strickland has also thrown his hat in the ring, insisting he's the man who can dethrone Chimaev. Strickland's cardio, toughness, and high-volume striking have carried him far in the division, but Bisping isn't convinced. He argued, that Strickland's defensive wrestling and grappling simply aren't on the level needed to neutralize Chimaev's relentless style. In Bisping's view, De Ridder remains the only legitimate threat at middleweight right now. Meanwhile, Chimaev himself isn't slowing down. Fresh off claiming the title, he's already eyeing his first defense. He's made it clear he wants that defense to take place in Abu Dhabi, a place that has become something of a second home for him. UFC President Dana White has already confirmed that he's on board with the idea, and with the schedule lining up, fans could see Chimaev defending his middleweight crown in just 2 months. That raises the million-dollar question: who will it be? Will the UFC book Sean Strickland, Reinier De Ridder, or perhaps throw in another contender entirely? One thing is certain, the middleweight division has officially entered the Khamzat Chimaev era, and if his performance at UFC 319 was any indication, that era could last for a very long time. Khamzat Chimaev has once again shaken the MMA world to its core. Just days after delivering one of the most jaw-dropping performances in UFC history, he's now facing a direct threat from rising contender Anthony "Fluffy" Hernandez, who boldly promised to drown him inside the octagon. But before we look ahead, let's revisit the moment that set the MMA world on fire. In his most recent fight, Chimaev landed an unbelievable 529 total strikes against Dricus du Plessis, obliterating Max Holloway's legendary record of 447 strikes against Calvin Kattar. To put that in perspective, Holloway's performance back in 2021 was hailed as one of the most dominant striking displays the sport had ever seen. Many believed it was a record that might stand forever. Chimaev didn't just break it, he absolutely demolished it, surpassing the mark by more than 80 strikes. Sure, not every blow carried knockout power, but the sheer pace, relentless pressure, and suffocating dominance had fans stunned. For years, critics questioned one thing about Chimaev: his cardio. Could he really maintain that insane pace for multiple rounds, or would he fade if forced into deep waters? Against du Plessis, Chimaev answered those doubts emphatically. He didn't slow down. In fact, he weaponized his conditioning, using it as effectively as his wrestling and brutal ground and pound. The fight was a one-sided beatdown. Du Plessis, a proven warrior known for toughness, looked completely overwhelmed. Every attempt to escape was shut down. Every attempt to breathe was met with another barrage of punches, elbows, and pressure. Even during a late scramble that looked dangerous, Chimaev brushed it off with ease. He later revealed that he was never in trouble at all, he had simply been chasing a submission. In short, Chimaev looked untouchable. And now comes the burning question: what's next? Contenders are already lining up to challenge the Wolf. Anthony Hernandez has been the loudest voice of all. Riding one of the hottest win streaks in the division, Hernandez is brimming with confidence. In a fiery interview with Spanish journalist Papa Legaspi, he didn't hold back. He vowed to drag Chimaev into deep waters and flat out promised, "I'll drown him." According to Hernandez, he has the perfect style to expose Chimaev, combining wrestling, jiu-jitsu, toughness, and above all, an endless gas tank. He believes he can force Chimaev to work every second of the fight until he breaks. But after what we just witnessed, can anyone in the middleweight division truly survive that storm? Names like Rinat, Fakret Dinov, Kio Alho, and Nasruddin Imravov are all circling as potential challengers, each bringing their own unique weapons. Yet right now, it feels like the middleweight division belongs to one man. Khamzat Chimaev didn't just win a fight, he reminded the world why he's one of the most feared fighters alive. In breaking news, UFC President Dana White has officially suspended rising heavyweight prospect Alvin Hines for 1 year after testing positive for multiple banned substances. This shocking revelation is a massive blow to a young fighter who was just beginning to carve out a name in the sport. Hines, who recently suffered his first professional defeat in a unanimous decision loss to Janata Denise at UFC 317, was expected to use that setback as a learning experience and opportunity to bounce back stronger. Instead, his career momentum has been derailed by a full-scale performance-enhancing drug violation. According to the official commission report, Hines tested positive for anabolic steroids, testosterone metabolites, and tamoxifen hormone, and metabolic modulator often used to mask or regulate the side effects of steroid use. This was no borderline case. It was a cocktail of substances that left regulators with no choice but to impose a year-long suspension. What makes this case even more striking is Hines' own admission. He openly acknowledged that he had been using these substances before signing with the UFC, believing they would clear from his system in time for his debut. Clearly, he was wrong. The test results showed undeniable traces of PEDs still in his body, shattering his credibility. The MMA community wasted no time in reacting. Some fans mocked him, claiming it was obvious from his physique and power that something unnatural was in play. Others turned their criticism toward the UFC itself, pointing out a troubling pattern where lesser-known fighters often face the consequences, while marquee pay-per-view stars seem to escape major suspensions. One fan posted, "When was the last time a top draw popped for steroids?" What a coincidence. Another added, I thought Hines was just a hard-working guy finally getting his shot, but nope, turns out he was cheating. For Hines, the punishment is more than just time away from the octagon. At such an early stage in his career, a year of inactivity is devastating. He'll miss crucial fight experience, lose momentum, and most importantly, struggle to repair his reputation. Once a fighter is branded a cheater, that stigma rarely fades. Even if he returns clean, fans and opponents alike will question every victory. Dana White's suspension of Alvin Hines sends a clear message. In today's UFC, there is zero tolerance for PEDs, but the real question remains. Will this young heavyweight be able to recover his career, or has this mistake already defined his future? Jon Jones is once again teasing a UFC comeback, and fans don't know whether to roll their eyes or get excited. Ever since he announced his retirement earlier this year, the MMA world has been in limbo, questioning whether the former light heavyweight king and reigning heavyweight champion was truly done with the sport. A few months ago, Jones re-entered the testing pool, instantly sparking speculation that retirement was never his real plan. Yet no official fight has been booked, and the uncertainty has only fueled debates about how genuine his retirement really was. At a recent fan event, Jones spoke openly about his mindset. He admitted that when he first announced retirement, he meant it. According to him, he had made peace with walking away after achieving nearly everything a fighter could dream of: championship titles in 2 divisions, cementing his legacy, and carving his name as one of the greatest fighters of all time. But then came the twist. Jones smiled and told the crowd, "Everyone loves a good comeback." The reaction, a mix of cheers and eye rolls, and honestly, who can blame the fans? Jones has teased retirements, comebacks, and big money fights so many times that keeping track has become a sport of its own. From talks of super fights at heavyweight, rumored battles with legends like Stipe, Miocic, and even the fantasy matchup against Francis Ngannou in cross-promotional bouts, Jones has always kept fans guessing. Yet, more often than not, those big announcements never materialize. His latest retirement lasted barely a heartbeat, and here we are again, talking about his return. The question now is simple: is he serious this time? And if so, who could possibly be his opponent? Some fans believe the UFC will finally push for the long-rumored fight between Jones and Stipe Miocic, a bout that was supposed to happen last year before Jones pulled out with an injury. Others argue that Tom Aspinall, the current interim heavyweight champion, is the only matchup that makes sense. Aspinall has been vocal about wanting to unify the titles, and defeating Jon Jones would give him instant GOAT-level credibility. But doubts remain. Jones is now 37 years old, plagued with injuries, and hasn't fought since his quick submission win over Cyril Gane back in March 2023. Long layoffs have never been kind to fighters. And even though Jones is widely considered one of the greatest of all time, Father Time is undefeated. Meanwhile, the UFC has continued to build new stars, and Jones risks being left behind if he doesn't actually commit to fighting again. Fan reactions online are split. Some are buzzing with excitement, saying they'd watch Jon Jones fight anyone, anytime. Others are more skeptical, writing comments like, "Retirement number 8. Let's see if this one sticks." One fan summed up the mood perfectly: "I'll believe Jon Jones is fighting again when I see him inside the cage, not before." And that's the heart of the story. For now, it's all talk. But if history has shown us anything, it's this: Jon Jones loves the spotlight, and the UFC loves a blockbuster return. Whether this comeback actually happens, and who he fights next, remains one of the sport's biggest unanswered questions. The long-anticipated clash between Michael "Venom" Paige and Carlos Prates at UFC Rio is quickly moving from speculation to reality. After weeks of subtle hints from both fighters, reports now confirm that the two have verbally agreed to the bout, with the targeted date set for October 11th in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, a perfect stage for this electrifying stylistic matchup. Michael Paige, who made a successful UFC debut earlier this year, has been vocal about wanting to stay active. After impressing fans in his first outing, Paige emphasized his desire for quick turnarounds, and now he insists he's fully healthy and ready to go. This is welcome news for fans who feared he might wait around for a bigger name or a higher-ranked opponent. Instead, Paige is proving that he's committed to testing himself and building real momentum in the welterweight division. On the other side, Carlos Prates has rapidly built a reputation as a fearless and dangerous competitor. Known for taking on any challenge, Prates has shown genuine excitement about facing Paige. He's even praised Paige's unique and unorthodox striking style, describing him as a puzzle that very few fighters have been able to solve. That mix of respect and fearlessness makes him the perfect dance partner for this bout. What makes this fight even more intriguing is the respect the two men share outside the octagon. Reports reveal that they've crossed paths multiple times backstage, at events, and even at a nightclub in Brazil. Rather than hostility or trash talk, every interaction has been filled with mutual respect. In an era where fake drama and heated rivalries often dominate headlines, this matchup feels refreshingly authentic, and that's exactly what makes this fight special. It doesn't need hype or manufactured story. The clash of styles, the mutual respect, the danger each man brings, and the electric atmosphere of UFC Rio are more than enough to make it must-watch. This is a fight that has all the ingredients. Fans crave explosive striking, high stakes, and two warriors eager to prove themselves on one of the sport's grandest stages. October 11th in Rio promises fireworks, and fight fans won't want to miss it.